Dude, Sean, I cannot believe that you guys get just absolutely annihilated one week and then you show up the next week wearing a Newcastle kit. Like, what is you can't just switch
James,
teams like
James,
that.
James,
What?
James,
Yeah.
James. That's not Sean.
It's Joel. I'm here. What's up, guys? This is Red Card Radio.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whenever you're listening from. Thanks for tuning in. Red Card Radio is a weekly look at the Premier League from three friends who support different clubs. This week it's three, not the normal three friends, but it's three different friends. My name's James. I support Arsenal. With me tonight, that's Brad up top with me. He supports, I think that's Charlotte FC.
Yeah,
Um,
and Chelsea. So
oh,
at Chelsea.
is Chelsea still playing football? I'm not sure. And then down below that is Joel repping the Newcastle United kit. What's up, Joel? Welcome back. Long time no see.
What's
Thanks for
up?
thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, it's been a little while. It's an appropriate week for me to make my return and Sean to go off in hiding. So thanks for having me back.
Quick defense of Sean. We were aware of his absence last week. He's got some things going on this week, which precluded his ability to join us this week. But it just so happens it was quite the humorous week for it to happen on. So as always, guys, if you are new, if you have just stumbled across us, if the YouTube algorithm or the podcast algorithm recommended you to us, hit the subscribe button, ring the sub notification bell if you're on YouTube, hit the follow button, leave it a 5-star review on a podcast site if it so allows. Drop a comment in our and the YouTube comments. We do love dealing with your comments. We got comments in this episode and the next, so definitely we like interacting with you guys. Join our Discord. Jimmy would be remiss if I didn't remind everyone to join our Discord, so you can chat at him there. It's in the description of the video. And without further ado, this is the review episode for match week 33. We're going to be looking at all the games that happened last weekend, and actually some that took place today at a time of recording. FA Cup as well, and then we do have quite a tasty fixture for you guys to watch. If you are listening to this podcast on Wednesday as it's being released, there's just a small clash that we need to talk about. So
Nobody should freak out over, or
yeah, no one
we'll
should
decide
be.
the title race.
Yeah, no nerves, nothing. Yeah, no, everyone should be very calm on Wednesday, April 26th, 2023. Anyway, so as we are accustomed to doing here, before we get too deep, we are going to pull up the league table just so we can all get acclimated and be on the same page. But in first position still is Arsenal. Whether or not that persists long term, we are going to see. They have played 2 more matches than Manchester City, and they have only 5 points greater than Manchester City. So you can do the math. Manchester City can surpass Arsenal. Newcastle are in third, equal points with 4th place Manchester United. However, Manchester United have 1 less game played than Newcastle. Up to 5th, boys. Aston Villa are up to 5th. That's wild.
Wow.
That is crazy.
That's amazing.
I mean,
that's a turnaround.
We talked about the huge turnaround that Newcastle had with Eddie Howe last year. I think that this turnaround with Unai Emery is, I think, comparable. It's been absolutely impressive. Tottenham slip to 6th. Liverpool stay in 7th. Brighton and Hove Albion are in 8th. Now, I will give a little bit of context about Villa in 5th. The teams below them have all played less games than them, so Villa could be caught, especially Brighton, who are in 8th, have 4 games less played than Villa. However, that's going to just add to fixture congestion for them. So that's something they'll have to navigate. Fulham are in 9th. Brentford round out our top 10th, still vibing. Still in 11th is still Chelsea, still on 39 points. However, in their defense, they didn't play this weekend, so they didn't have any chance to lose again.
Crystal Palace, no pain this weekend.
Crystal Palace are in 12th, slowly creeping up on Chelsea. There, only 2 points behind. And guess who else is creeping? It's Wolves. Wolves are also 2 points behind Chelsea. West Ham fall to 14th. Bournemouth are in 15th, Leeds 16th, Leicester claw themselves out of the relegation zone, which then condemns Everton into the relegation zone on 18th. They're on 28 points. Nottingham Forest are in 19th on 27 points. And then Southampton are still in 20th, though they have more points this week than they did last week. So for the avid listener of Red Card Radio, you will understand what that means from context. But yeah, so Everton fall, Nottingham Forest fall into the relegation zone. Everton, Leeds or Leicester getting themselves out, I think is quite the impressive feat. I know.
Yeah.
I will say we've been pretty down on Leicester recently. I think when we've been looking in the last couple of weeks, Joel, about the relegation battle, I think our belief has been Southampton look dead in the water.
Yes.
Would you generally agree with that?
Yeah, I think if you look at the points, they're obviously by far the weakest. They haven't their performances though. I mean, they against Arsenal, they put a flipping strong performance. So it's not like they're getting rolled over every week. They're
True.
in the games. It's just they're not getting the results. But I it looks like they're going down. I wouldn't fully rule them out yet. I mean, what are they? They're 5 points off. That's 2 games.
Yeah.
So
yes,
who knows?
They're certainly not dead in the water, but they look like they're floundering.
They're the favorites.
All
They're the
three
favorites to go down.
all three in the relegation zone do have a game in hand on both Leicester and Leeds. So like,
yeah, that's big.
Anybody's
that's big at this point. My point was going to be Leicester to me have always been a team that I thought could salvage their season just because of the quality of their squad. Even though they are playing horrendously, they still had I think they had a top half finishing squad. Like it's a side that had the quality to finish in the top half. Now, losing Kasper Schmeichel before the season started and going to Danny Ward was an unbelievable downgrade for them. And I think unsettled the team a lot going into the early part of the season. But I still think their quality could carry them through. So I've never been worried per se that Leicester were a team that were going to go down. I always thought that they would salvage themselves, but they're still in the thick of it. They're going to need to string some performances together.
Something together.
So with that being said, let me run down the string of matches that happened this weekend. So a little bit of context for everybody. We had Premier League football on Friday and Saturday last. Then the FA Cup took place on Saturday and Sunday. And then there was Premier League matches on Tuesday, which is, for us, it's today. The day that we record is on Tuesday. So there were Premier League matches today. So the way we're going to kind of structure this is we're going to look at the Premier League and the FA Cup. We're going to look at all those fixtures that have been played. And then while we would normally stop there, we do want to preview that Arsenal Manchester City match. It's going to happen on Wednesday, which is the day you guys are getting this podcast. So with that context out of the way, Friday kicked off Arsenal Southampton. Should have been an easy result for Arsenal. Get 3 points in the bag, move on to City. Of course it wasn't. This is Arsenal's 3rd draw in a row. They draw Southampton 3-3. Arsenal were down 2-0 in this match and 3-1 in this match. Got an 88th and 90th minute goal, 88th and 90th minute goals to draw the match level. Honestly, I turned the match off in the 84th minute because I was distraught. I did tell Brad and Sean last week that I wouldn't be on the podcast if Arsenal didn't win the game. Arsenal didn't win the game, and I'm here.
Yay, you made it.
I will say that I'm wearing my Theo Walcott jersey today because Theo Walcott scored against Arsenal. Saturday, we'll talk about this Arsenal match more in a minute. Fulham Leeds was Saturday morning. Fulham win the game 2-1. Brentford Villa ends 1-1. Palace Everton ends 0-0. Leicester Wolves. Leicester beat Wolves 2-1. Liverpool Nottingham Forest. Liverpool win 3-2. Bournemouth West Ham United. That was on Sunday. West Ham get a 4-0 thrashing of Bournemouth, which rounded out the Premier League weekend on Sunday with the Newcastle Spurs match from St. James's Park. And when I said that West Ham thrashed Bournemouth, we have to come up with another word for what Newcastle did to Spurs, because Newcastle were up 5-0 in 21 minutes. Newcastle win the game 6-1. And I have a direct quote. This is a comment from one of our loyal listeners. It's actually a comment from Joel. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but his comment was 6-1. And I kid you not, it was like 100 characters of ha 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 ha. Just string.
I mean, it doesn't happen often, does it? Like it.
5 goals in 21 minutes. I don't think that happens ever.
Yeah.
It's happened. I found out that's the second fastest any team's been 5-0 up in a game in the Premier League. Man City did it faster. They did it 18 minutes against Watford a few years ago, and they won that game 8-0.
Okay,
but
let's have.
But that's Man City v Watford. This is Newcastle v Tottenham, 4th v 5th. Like, it's just unusual. And I was pessimistic before the game because of a few reasons. Both Newcastle and Spurs lost the game before. Newcastle was the worst game since Howe took over. I didn't know how they'd bounce back from that. It was a huge game, inexperienced chasing the Champions League. There were a few reasons I thought it was going to be a really close, tense game, and I thought Spurs would get it on the counter, if I'm honest. But seeing Spurs line up in formation before the game, it's just unusual. And I kind of felt from the first whistle, honestly, Newcastle just seemed, I mean, they scored within 60-something seconds, but they just seemed way more up for it. Spurs were all over the place. It was men versus boys. It was.
I will say this about Newcastle is every time I watch them, and I've watched them a lot more this year than I have ever previously, they all, with the exception of last week, they always seem like they're winning first and second balls. Like they always seem more committed than the team that they're playing against. And I think that speaks to their league position, because and I don't say this disparagingly, but if we look at their roster, would we look at that roster on paper and say this is the roster that should finish 4th in the Premier League?
Absolutely not. You got Nick Pope, who got relegated last year with Burnley. You got Dan Burn, who's not a typical left back. You've got Fabian Schär, who was one of the worst performers under Steve Bruce, honestly. You've got Sean Longstaff, who's not going to set the world alight, or you wouldn't think would set the world alight. He's so key to it. He didn't play against Villa, and you could tell. Jacob Murphy, like, these aren't your typical top 3, top 4 style players.
And so you forgot your favorite player in that list, Joelinton.
Joelinton, I mean, he is unbelievably he's so good, honestly. Yeah. His first touch for that goal was.
And so, like, this is my point about them, is that if you compare their squad just on paper to Chelsea, to Liverpool, to City, to Arsenal, to United, to Spurs, you look at them and you're like, okay, you give them a shout against some of these teams, but let's be honest, there's 4 teams rosters on paper who are better than theirs. But it's the willingness to work hard and to outwork your opponent, which allows you to pick up a lot of points in this league. And my biggest takeaway from watching this Spurs match, or the Spurs Newcastle match, was just how dead on the nail Antonio Conte was like 40 days ago when he made his comments about Spurs that got him fired. Is that I think if Spurs had two roads available to them at that moment, they could either back Conte and say, Levy and Kane could have come out with statements and said, Conte's right, the players aren't working hard enough, and Antonio Conte is the manager of this football club at least until the end of the season. We want him to continue beyond that. That's going to be up to him and us at the end of the season, but we want him to continue, and we back him. Or they could sack him, which is what they chose to do, and essentially just heap all the blame on him. And then less than almost a month later, you're getting absolutely embarrassed. Absolutely embarrassed against a team that you feel like you should at least be on par with. Maybe not necessarily beating them, because St. James's Park, difficult place to play. Against this Newcastle team, difficult team to play. The most resolute defensive team in the league. and so like I'm not trying to disparage Newcastle in any way, shape, or form, but Spurs, it it exemplified exactly all of the issues that are present with this Tottenham Hotspurs team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were shocking. Newcastle had so much time on the ball, like all the time. Spurs didn't
There was
care.
no
They didn't
pressure.
want to play.
Yeah, there was no pressure on Newcastle. Newcastle could do whatever they wanted. But after the game, Levy comes. Did you guys all see and read Levy's letter of I take the blame, full responsibility. Stellini's fired.
Yeah, like he says, I take the blame. His sentence was like,
And in the next sentence, Stellini's fired.
yeah.
What?
I get what they're saying. Like,
Sure, you can't. Sure, but like, if you're
yes,
going to do that, then why didn't you do that 35 days, 40 days ago?
yeah.
Like, why was Stellini allowed to stay?
Stellini was allowed to stay because he operates in the same system that Conte operates in, and they bought players for the system.
Right,
And I'm going to air quotes. They bought players for the system.
right.
Um,
John will probably disagree. But yeah, and then. Well, I mean, I get why he probably had to let him go after this game, playing Perisic as a left back. Really silly.
He was awful. Perisic was so
Well,
bad.
yeah, he's not defensive. He's like an extra winger as a left wing back
well, he's meant to be a
He,
left wing back. That's where he
I
or a
thrives.
know.
winger. Yeah,
I mean
It was.
that's where he thrived at Inter under Conte. That's where in theory, he
right.
was going to thrive under Conte at Spurs. It's just, yeah, he doesn't have the defensive capabilities, I think, to succeed in the Premier League. In the same sense that Emerson Royale doesn't, but maybe at Real Madrid he might.
Yeah, Emerson. Yeah, the manager he says he's going to Real Madrid.
At least that's what his dad said, which is hilarious. But no, I was shocked by this result. I just spoke with my wife, the CFO, and she was telling me how giddy she was when she was getting updates about that match on her phone, how excited she was about that result. But it was shocking. I was sick
Yeah.
Sunday, and so like I wasn't aware of it. I turned my phone off and I turn it back on, and I see that I have like 1,000 text messages from all of you guys, and I look at the score, and I'm just like, I'm blown
I
away.
actually tried to FaceTime Sean during the game.
Did you
He didn't
really?
he didn't answer. I think it was when it was at 4-0 or 5-0. I think 5-0. Right after it hit 5-0, I tried to call him. He just didn't answer. He texted back, said, "Sorry, I'm trying to get this Ring doorbell." I'm like, probably a good thing. All I was going to do is literally have the camera on the scoreline, like, and then hang up after a few seconds.
Oh
He
man,
didn't. He didn't answer.
that's
the troll,
unbelievable
the
banter.
troll.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously Newcastle feel galvanized by this result, feel like they can finish in the top 4, feel like they can secure Champions League football. And so
Do,
go for them. What are Spurs' aspirations after
do
this?
Spurs get Europe? Like, can they
Yeah,
even like keep the Conference Cup?
I mean, a win against Man United tomorrow, and
Huge, yeah, yeah.
I
Or
mean, it's they're not back out. They're not out of the top. I don't. Maybe it's because I'm pessimistic. I've not been in this race before. I don't think the top 4 race is over yet by a long stretch.
I don't think
Newcastle
so
aren't
either.
guaranteed it. Like, uh,
It's
if
quite
Spurs
tight.
win,
It's quite tight.
they're 3 points behind.
Yeah.
I know we have a game in hand, but three
yeah,
points is well 3.5 points because of goal difference. But
I'd be tempted to call the top 4 race, as these 4 teams will be the last 4 will be the top
yeah,
4 teams on the final day.
they're definitely the favourites by no doubt. But it's not over yet.
Yeah, I mean,
Spurs aren't out of it.
Brighton have 4 games in hand on. Oh,
Villa.
they only have 2 games on Newcastle. So yeah, that's a bridge too far for them there. Yeah, so I
Just
think
takes a
Maybe
couple.
Brighton sneaks in, but like,
Takes a couple of results. It was shock results. You never know.
true,
You never know.
absolutely.
I really wait. No, Brighton only has 1 game in hand on United.
Yes, but on Newcastle is what I was saying.
Yeah, 2 games, but like,
Yeah,
10 points in 5 weeks, or 8 games.
That's too much. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah. So I guess we'll see. It would be an absolute capitulation on either Manchester United or Newcastle United's part to fall out of that top 4. I think at this point. So I think unfortunately we have to talk about Arsenal Southampton. Um,
Your third draw in a row.
so the
Haven't lost.
yes, Arsenal are undefeated in 10 games, and I saw this on Twitter, and it said only Arsenal could be top of the table, and undefeated in 10 games and make it feel bad, like make it feel bad. Yeah, I don't. It's kind of inexcusable. I thought that the West Ham result was bad. I think that this result is even worse. At home against the 20th place team. Like,
You know what makes this result worse is that they almost came back and won. And it was 2 goals in the 88th and the 90th minute or whatever it was.
yeah,
And then there was 8 minutes added time where it was pressure. And I was watching it. The stadium was just rocking and the atmosphere was amazing and they didn't get it. And then at the full-time whistle, it was the most like deflating scene. Like Southampton were deflated because they threw away a win, which would have been huge for them to stay up, and Arsenal deflated because they didn't somehow beat Southampton at home, and they feel like the league's gone now. It was just the most anticlimactic ending.
It was like the worst result all around.
The only takeaway, this is the most silver lining takeaway that I can paint on this, is that it didn't drastically change the fact that like we had to. It essentially changed the City result. Like we have to beat City now to control our destiny, instead of being able to draw against City and still control our destiny. I'm still not convinced that Manchester City will win the remaining 8 games that they have in the Premier League. I'm not convinced of it. They've got Champions League semifinals coming up against Real Madrid. They've got FA Cup final. Now they can kind of ignore the FA Cup because the final's in freaking June. But like the FA Cup semifinals are tricky things that they have to navigate. And so I'm not convinced that they won't drop points, but
so they're running.
Wait,
I just looked at their running. So after Arsenal,
yep,
they've got Fulham, West Ham, Leeds,
yep,
Everton, Chelsea, all teams, and I'm throwing Chelsea there just because I'm form Brad. Like teams that they should straightforward beat, and then they've got Brighton away, Brentford away. They'll be tough.
But even not on form, I think, and it's at City. I think I don't think it's at the Bridge.
It's at City, yeah.
Yeah. So even if Chelsea was firing where we were supposed to be, our squad, I still think City wins that game.
You guys are getting rolled by City. Absolutely rolled by City.
Oh yeah, I think in this present form we are absolutely getting dominated by them. But have you looked at Arsenal's run up? They got after City, it's Arsenal, Chelsea, which Chelsea will get up for. Whether I think Arsenal still wins that game. I'm gonna say it. I'm probably gonna change my mind next week and say Chelsea's dominating and winning.
Well, you're gonna have to tell me on Friday because that game's on Tuesday, bro. So we got to preview it before we get out this week.
True. I'll probably change my mind by Friday. I'll probably change my mind on Friday, but Chelsea's going to get up for that game, and then you're going to St. James Park.
Yep.
And you have Brighton at home.
Yep.
And then your last 2 games, I mean, you should pick up. You have a locked 6 points, maybe 9 with Chelsea.
I mean, let's not lock any points for Arsenal if we're being honest.
Forest and Wolves on the last day.
Okay, what I will say about any of the teams that are in the bottom 6
True,
or 7,
they're fighting for relegation.
They're fighting for relegation. They need points. Yeah. I mean, like Arsenal have seen in the last 2 weeks that those games are not easy. And if City have just been to Madrid and fought Real Madrid in a slugfest, and they have to come back on on a Sunday and play against West Ham or whoever it is, Leeds. They could get up for it. And City have dropped points against teams that they shouldn't have. They dropped points against Forest away. I'm not. That's the only reason I'm saying I'm not convinced. If they do, then good on them. If City take maximum points from their final 8 games, they'll be champions. They'll be champions, and they deserve it.
You have to win this game.
Yeah,
Arsenal have to win. If there's any other result, it is in City's favor. Yeah. City can draw this game now, and they will be favorites.
And what I will say is that if City approach the match to draw, they're going to lose.
I don't disagree with you, but I don't think Pep will ever approach a match to draw.
There's no way. Pep is approaching this match. He wants to win it.
Like Pep wants to do a 6-1 to Arsenal.
Yeah. And it's entirely possible. I mean, Rob Holding against Erling Haaland is going to be an interesting battle,
Yeah.
to say the least.
I think Arsenal are going to win it. Personally, I think they'll win. Beat City.
I hope so. I don't see Arsenal winning this match. I just apparently Granit Xhaka is still questionable for the match. He was sick at the weekend against Southampton, so he's still questionable. All right, so I will say this: if Xhaka doesn't play, I want to see Emil Smith Rowe play in his position, not Fabio Vieira. I want to see Emil play there, and Brad.
Why not Jorginho?
Okay, so all the talk on the Arsenal in the Arsenal world is what they want to see is they want to see Ben White come to partner Gabriel at center back. They want to see Partey play right back. They want to see Jorginho play the sixth, and take Rob Holding out essentially. What my only major changes that I want to see. I honestly want to play Tierney over Zinchenko. And the reason why I want to play Tierney over Zinchenko is because I want Tierney's defensive capabilities. Zinchenko's been at fault for 2 goals that have directly led to Arsenal draws in the last 2 games that he's played. So he got skinned by Trent for Liverpool's second, and he fell asleep at the back post against Southampton for Southampton's third. He was directly a result for those.
But if I remember correctly, the last City Arsenal game, you said they did not play as at full strength because Zinchenko wasn't playing.
They didn't play as a full strength because of a lot of things. Partey didn't play in that match. Zinchenko didn't play in that match.
Yep.
But I think it's a different prospect now.
Okay.
I think I can say that, and I don't think that they contradict each other per se.
Don't you want Zinchenko for his experience and leadership?
Yeah, Zinchenko on the right.
So
really
what I might argue is that if you're going to do this whole Partey Ben White swap thing and have Ben White come into center back and Partey at the right back, I think I would rather invert Partey because he's not going to be useful overlapping, right? He's much more better in the center, in the middle of the park. So if that's the case, you don't want to have 2 inverted fullbacks in the same side. You would rather have one fullback on the left that's more overlapping in the way that Ben White plays on the right, and have Partey invert and kind of. So my thought
why don't we
process,
take this instead of Jorginho, put Zinchenko there. Zinchenko plays center mid for his national.
Yeah, he plays a 10 for his national team. He doesn't play 6. I don't want to sit Zinchenko in front of
Zinchenko doesn't really play a 6.
What? Yeah, I know.
Sorry, not Zinchenko. Sorry, Xhaka doesn't really play your 6.
No. But what we're talking,
Jorginho's more of your naturals.
We're talking about
closer to a 6.
We're talking about who's playing. Are you saying okay? What you're saying is play Zinchenko in Xhaka's position, still play Tierney, play Zinchenko in Xhaka's position. That's a thought. I hadn't thought about that. You could do that. I think Emil Smith Rowe has something to give this team, and he has unfortunately not been given the opportunity to give something to this team.
He's the 10, and he's homegrown,
and he's a baller. He is so good.
How many games has he played this season? He hasn't played much, right?
Well, because he's been injured. So he got injured. He was injured coming into the season. He kind of made his way back, and then got injured against Manchester United in October, and then was out until February or something like that. But then he hasn't really been able to get much game time since February for whatever reason. But I really think that he could play a big part on Wednesday in this match. I
like him. I think last season he had a great season.
And I think he and Martinelli could cause a lot of trouble on the left-hand side in the same way that Odegaard and Saka cause a lot of trouble on the right side. And so I think you kind of create a similar dynamic over there that you have on the right side. But ultimately, I don't think this game's going to come down to Arsenal's ability to score goals. I think it's going to come down to Arsenal's ability to prevent goals and whether or not Arsenal can stop City from scoring.
I think it'll be both. I think it'll be a scoring, like a 3-2 type game.
Ooh, are we taking predictions?
As long as it's 2-3, I'm happy.
Taking predictions? All right. Joel has a 3-2. I'm typing.
Okay, you type.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to guess, 3-2 Arsenal. Yeah. Crazy game it's going to be.
Do you want me to go first? So you got
Yeah.
some time?
Yeah.
All right. 3-1 City.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's gonna be 4-1 City. I'm so pessimistic about this game.
Wow.
So
wow.
pessimistic. I don't think Arsenal. I think that there's just too much going on in this Arsenal squad right now for us to get a result.
Does this change the season to a disappointment? If this is
No. I mean,
Okay.
in the moment, like I said, for the 2 weeks after the season is over, if Arsenal don't win the season, I will be melancholy about the fact that Arsenal don't win the season. But it doesn't just it won't distract me from the fact that Arsenal had no business in this title race, and ultimately overperformed.
Okay. I was just curious.
Long term. I'm talking long term, and I'm
Yep.
also bullish on Arsenal's position for next year as well. I don't see any reason with a bit of strengthening, shift in some players. If some way we were to be able to sign Declan Rice, which is what the rumors are, sign Declan Rice, I think that's would be a huge statement signing for us.
Yeah. There's your Xhaka's replacement. There you go.
All of the crazy Twitter people who say we're going to sign Declan Rice and Caicedo. If that were to happen, I would lose my mind, but it's not going to happen. It's one or the other, in my opinion. But we'll talk about that in the summer. Other matches happening tomorrow that we should be aware of: West Ham, Liverpool, Chelsea, Brentford. Chelsea are playing football.
I got a starting lineup.
Oh,
I got a starting lineup for
London
Chelsea.
derby.
We got time. We got time.
No, we got time for. We absolutely got time for a
All
starting
right.
lineup for Chelsea.
Right. Are you guys ready? Let's see how many of these names you guys know.
This is the academy players. 100%.
This is the 11 that I want to see starting. Gabriel Salina in net. Aspie as a right back, especially now with Reece James is out for the season. Badishiel and Alfie Gilchrist starting as our center back pair. Lewis Hall as left back. We'll keep Enzo in the lineup. I think Enzo needs some minutes. Harvey Vale, Chukwuemeka. So I messed up that name really bad. I know. I can see it on Joel's face. And then at the top will be Mudryk, Fofana, and Maduke.
Maduke?
Yeah, Maduke, I think. Maduke?
No Mudryk.
Okay.
No Mudryk.
Mudryk on the left. Mudryk on the left. I said Mudryk.
Did you say Mudryk?
I did. I said Mudryk on the left. Fofana is the striker, and Maduke as the right winger. We bought
Fofana
he's an English
as a striker?
Yes.
Different other.
Not
Fofana.
Wesley Fofana.
Not Wesley
Different
Fofana.
Fofana.
Different Fofana.
Oh, okay.
Different
Okay.
Fofana.
Honestly, Brad, half of that team I've never heard of.
Half? Wait, how many of them have you heard of?
Maybe 4 or 5. I was like, who's the goalie that you said?
Slonina, he was the Chicago Fire
Fire
goalie that we bought. He's like 17-year-old kid.
He's American.
Never heard of it.
I was surprised.
He had the most clean sheets. What?
I'm surprised you didn't say Omari Hutchinson.
He was on my list, but I wanted Enzo to get minutes instead. He's like the 12th man here. He's the first one off the bench.
Sure, Brad. You could play that team if you want.
I mean, like,
could you play that
what
team
does
against
it matter?
Arsenal? Can you play that team against Arsenal?
You would love it if we did.
Please do.
I don't think so. Hey, they might actually show some heart, and like I promise you, like a Spurs Newcastle wouldn't happen with this team. They would be fighting.
They might be fighting.
If it did, there would be about like a couple of red cards happening. I don't know if you guys watched Ted Lasso, but they had the West Ham versus
haven't seen it yet. Don't
Richmond.
ruin it.
Oh,
don't ruin it.
It'd be similar to that. That's all I'm gonna say.
I haven't seen it yet either.
Yeah, because you're gonna watch it all, aren't you, James? You're just waiting for the series to end so you can binge watch it all.
Yeah. I'm a binger. I didn't start watching Mandalorian until the final episode came out. Same thing with Picard season 3. So like, yeah, I'm all about being able to just binge things.
Yeah, this time you just wait for the whole series, not the season.
True.
What?
Are you not concerned about Chelsea? Like the fact that half their lineup no one's ever heard of these days, and just
oh no, most of the lineup you have heard of. Most of the actual lineup, what it will be is hold on, let me get to it.
This is Chelsea. Like
Yeah.
Like Premier League, multiple Premier League titles, 2 Champions League titles.
Yep.
They're just awful.
We're just like I don't know what's going on because like the
It's
players and the talent does
Todd
not
Bowley's
equate.
fault. It's Todd Bowley's fault.
I think Todd Bowley bought too much too fast.
Yeah, he did. He doesn't have a
Like
clue what he's doing.
This is
He's
so
so clueless.
this is
He's
so
so
ridiculous.
embarrassing.
like it's amazing and I'm excited for it. But like I think his whole
There's
I think that
nothing
no
ama
here's what I think happened. The summer window when he was by himself, that messes up. I think the winter window will end up being very, very good.
I'm sorry,
The
but
summer window,
Chelsea.
I don't want
Hold on,
anybody from the summer window
Chelsea
except
fans have been saying for the last like 6 months, we did a 3-year rebuild in 2 transfer windows. So
Yeah.
so all of this
We
all of this
did.
talk about, oh well, I'm wondering if he moved too fast and he signed too many players. What happened to all that? We did a rebuild in 2 transfer windows.
we did without selling anybody. That's the problem.
What? But that doesn't make any sense. You just said you don't want anyone from the summer transfer window. So that was a
I don't
failed 250
I
$300 million pounds.
I don't think so. Who let's see who came in this summer. Raheem
Fofana,
Sterling.
Cucurella, Raheem Sterling.
Fofana would be the only one I would keep. Sorry, let me rephrase. Fofana would be one I would keep. Badashil was in the
Not
winter.
Badashil, not Badashil. The other center back.
Sterling,
The center back.
Koulibaly,
Thank you.
Fofana.
So you want to sell Cucurella, Sterling, Koulibaly.
Yes.
This is
It's
I can't stand Chelsea fans.
Zachariah.
Yeah,
He
well
can go
he's on
He's
loan
alone.
from Juve.
He's alone.
You need to get rid of Kai Havertz as well. He's shocking.
But got Lukaku
Fine
coming
either
back in the
way.
summer.
I don't think I think Kai Havertz has been played out of position. I think here's the problem with what Chelsea has is that Kai Havertz's best position, João Felix's best decision, and Kuku, who's coming in the summer's best position, is all a second striker.
Guess what
So
you guys
like
guess what you guys
João Felix needs to go back to Atletico. And then
Just they're a mess.
we are. It's fine.
And
We'll be fine.
it's Todd Bowley's fault.
We could spend an entire 30-minute podcast talking about Chelsea.
Yeah, we
The
could.
disaster of a season this was.
And maybe we'll do that here in a couple weeks when things are calming down. I don't
at the end of the league.
I don't think that's today.
No, it's definitely not. Because I don't want to derail us too much.
Quick recap on the FA Cup, just to kind of put a bow on that and get us out of here. The City Sheffield United was on Saturday. Manchester City obviously wins this game 3-0. Reports that that match at Wembley Stadium was less than filled to capacity.
Makes sense.
Apparently, the folks from Sheffield didn't want to make the trip. It's expensive, right? Like that's the thought process. Getting to Wembley, getting to London, getting tickets. It's just an expensive proposition. And City have about 12 fans, so of course they couldn't fill up their allotment. That's the joke going around. And then Brighton, Manchester United, that game ended 0-0 through 90 minutes. That game ended 0-0 through 120 minutes. And then Manchester United prevail 7-6 on penalties.
Makes for a good final.
This is the first time it's been City versus United in an FA Cup final.
Correct.
Ooh.
They've actually met. This will be the 7th time I believe they've met in a cup final, but the first time they will have met in the FA Cup final. So we're all rooting for Manchester City in that, right?
Heck yeah. Man City are going to win the treble.
Whoa.
Yes.
Manchester City are going to win at least the single. Ain't winning no Premier League titles, okay?
Oh, so they're gonna beat Arsenal, but still lose the title. Okay.
Yeah. Well, let's go with that. They'll get cocky and then lose 2 more matches somewhere. Wouldn't that be something? That be something?
That'd cap off this year. As the craziest Premier League year.
I would molt. I would just melt into nothingness. All right. I think that's all we got. Check back tomorrow. We got the news episode for you, and we'll also talk a little bit of Premier League action there because there are some matches on Thursday that are coming up. that we will want to look at as well. So if you're still listening, haven't decided whether or not this is the vodcast for you, I think you're still listening. I think it is. Hit the subscribe button, ring the sub notification bell. If you're on the podcast site, definitely follow, 5-star. All those things really do help us out. Drop a comment down below, and we will chat about it in next week's rounds of episodes. Hit us up on Twitter. That guy is at KSBradG. Down below, it's at Joel Findley 16. I am at James Tiffany. Collectively, we are at redcard_radio. Sean, who's not with us tonight, at whiteheart_Sean. Hit us up also in our Discord. That's in the comments, the description below. Until tomorrow, I hope you guys enjoy that City Arsenal match, and I hope that I'm terribly wrong. But we'll talk about it next week. Check back tomorrow. We'll have the news for you. And then Friday, we've got a preview of the remaining Premier League fixtures coming up. Until then, have a good one.